Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked, and today I'm doing a discussion over Covenant, the newest expansion to Return to Dark Tower. This is the second expansion that has been released for this game. The first one was Alliance, which I actually haven't covered on this channel. But anyway, here I am talking about Covenant, and what does Covenant bring to Return to Dark Tower? Well, a little bit of everything, I think. It brings in new treasures, it brings in new corruption, it brings in new characters. There are some new quests and stuff in the app that it brings. But the biggest differences that this expansion adds are monuments, Wasteland, and Doom tokens. So I'm going to be talking about basically the major differences and, of course, my overall thoughts on each one of those. But my overall thoughts for the Covenant expansion is... it's alright. Like, it's not bad, but I'm not that keen on wanting to ever play this expansion. And the reason I say it that way is, unfortunately, this expansion cannot be combined with the Alliance expansion, and I think that is a huge disappointment, because I like my cooperative games to add more stuff, or to be modular to where I can pick stuff from various expansions and add them in to get a different, unique experience. Like, it'd be cool to add the monuments and the guilds, or it'd be cool to add the Doom Skulls and the Wastelands with the guilds mainly, or the unique skulls from the Alliance expansion with this expansion, but you just are not allowed to do that. Like, the app literally has, like, you either select the Alliance expansion or you select the Covenant expansion, and then you go with that. And I really, really find that to be disappointing, like, and limiting, honestly, because if you are like me and you don't like everything in one expansion, but you like some things, you can't pick and choose which one you want to do. It's all or nothing. So it's kind of like, alright, well, I don't really like much of the stuff in the Covenant expansion, so I'm not really ever going to pick that over the other one. And like I said, the stuff that's added from Covenant, I'm not that big on. So we'll start with, like, the smaller stuff. So the Wasteland tokens. There's a bunch of these Wasteland tokens that get added. The app will just randomly add them in to each location, and each location or each region that has a monument built, which I know I haven't really talked about, will get a Wasteland token. And all these do is stop movement. Like, it's a full stop. No matter what, you step into a space with a Wasteland token, you have to end your movement. I kid you not, every single time that I have played with this expansion, the Wasteland tokens have never been an issue, like, at all. In fact, they've been more of a problem of rules than actual, like, a hindrance in movement. Like, to get where you want to go whenever quests show up, or you need to get to a building, or you need to do something at a very specific location, the way that these locations are designed still makes it extremely easy to be able to get there. There are items and treasures that can teleport you places. So Wastelands are no longer, like, there's one in the expansion that's just like, hey, place yourself into a space adjacent to the tower. Okay, well, if I'm able to do that, then I don't have to traverse around and try and bypass the Wasteland tokens. The fact that you're able to double movement means that you can kind of work your way around Wasteland tokens. They're honestly a huge waste of plastic, or in my case, but if you're a huge waste of cardboard, I find them completely useless. They're only there, I feel, to be kind of a for like an offering for a monument. Other than that, I mean, yeah, keep them in the game, I guess. You have to. You can't omit them. So just toss them out. The other thing that they do is they do remove the location's terrain type. So if it's like in the Sands of Madness, the Sands of Madness is no longer a desert, so you don't get like your Champion of the South advantages if you happen to fight in that location. But other than that, they're there. The other thing that this expansion adds are what's called Doom Skulls. Doom Skulls are these black skulls that are just set off to the side. They are permanent skulls. That's all they are. So every once in a while, the app will tell you to drop 2 into the tower. When they fall out, you place them on a building, and that building now has a permanent skull there. So it theoretically makes it to where the buildings can get destroyed more. Again, that's fine. Like, that's there. I didn't feel like it actually made the game all that difficult. Like, it was just another thing to have the app tell you, grab 2, drop them in. All right, then now they fell out, and it's on a location. So those were there. That was something that was added. The new corruption deck that it added. The rules say like that your game will be more difficult depending on. It's like, hey, these corruption are way harder than the ones in the base game. So your game is going to be more difficult depending on how many of these you add into your original deck. And if you want an even harder game, just use these. I didn't find them all that much more difficult, honestly. Granted, I don't find the corruption that big of a deal. I feel like the corruption is just kind of there, honestly. Like, yeah, it can be a hindrance, but it's relatively easy to get rid of them. And you just, yeah, I mean, honestly, like, I would just shuffle them all together and just keep them at that, because I don't find them any more debilitating than the other ones. Like, and they might be, like, one of them is, like, you can't do the quest action, you don't get your banner ability. Yeah, for some, like, the things in this expansion feel like they're so hyper-specific. Like, not being able to do your banner ability feels like it would be way more of a problem for some characters than others. Like, there are some characters who drastically need to use their banners for their other virtues to pop off. Others, it's like, oh no, I don't get to roll the haggle die. And I'll explain what that is in a sec, because it's one of the new characters. But it's like, okay. It feels like that the corruption, this is kind of like, I mean, because it's not any harder to get rid of these. It's not like there's a new rule with these corruption that's like, hey, to get rid of these specific corruption, you need to spend double the amount of spirit. It's not that. They work just like regular corruption. They're just perhaps more debilitating, very hyper-specific. There's new treasures. Treasures can kind of deal with blessings. Blessings are something new that are added. Very specific things will give you a blessing. It counts as a wild. It's a wild advantage, and you lose it at the end of your heroic action. So for that one point in time, you can have a wild advantage, or more if you can get multiple blessings. But other than that, they're there. Some of the new treasures can be pretty cool, like the Azkal's Scroll. Spend when you battle to gain +6 wild advantages. You may not use other advantages during this battle. Spend 1 to remove 1 corruption from any hero. That hero gains a blessing. When you fully upgrade a battle card, gain 3 warriors. Honestly, like, because you can't combine the 2 expansions, I would honestly say just take the treasures from the Covenant expansion and shuffle them in with your base game treasures, because when you do that, it actually increases your market by 1. So instead of 3 cards there are 4. And that is, I think that's just overall a better scenario. Then it goes to the new characters. So we can talk about that. Adds 4 new characters. This is my favorite aspect of this expansion, because I love the character designs in this game. Love the art. So it adds 4 new characters that are pretty interesting. I think they're probably the more, I wouldn't say they're complex by any means, but they're more interesting than any of like the 4 base game ones. So we can talk about like the Relentless Warden, and I'll just talk about like the banner abilities and their starting virtues. So the Relentless Warden has a quarry token. It's a hawk. Kind of makes me think of like Hunter's Mark or something. But the banner is if your quarry token is not on a foe, you place it on a foe. Otherwise, move your quarry up to 2 spaces. So like you can actually just have that token go on a foe and then start moving your foe around. Its starting virtues are +1 wild advantage versus your quarry, and guarded prevent up to 3 warrior losses per battle card when you battle your quarry. So the Relentless Warden is hyper specific to a foe. Like one foe, she's probably going to dominate them. That could be really good. It feels these are kind of like... It almost feels like these characters were like specifically designed for some of the monuments that are added into this game. And I know I haven't talked about monuments because they're the biggest thing that's added to it. So just retain everything I say. But yeah, like now you can move a foe around, might make it easier at the beginning of your turn. So that's the Relentless Warden. The Reverent Astromancer starts with their own deck of spell cards, which is kind of neat. I can actually grab some of them. So they have their banner, remove a skull on or adjacent to your space. Well-Versed is their virtue. If you remove a skull with your banner action, gain a blessing. Okay, so get a wild advantage pretty much. Pious, at the start of each month, prepare spells equal to the month number. So the spells that they have, they can eventually unlock evocations, which are just better, but they have 6 spells that they can pick. So at the beginning of the game, they can only prep 1 spell, then 2, then 3, then 4. But like they have Winds of Change, put any number of treasures from the market on the bottom of the treasure deck, then refill. Bestow Blessing, 1 hero gains a blessing. Aura of Friendship, when you reinforce at a building this turn, you can treat it as any building. Bounty of the Gods, look at 3 random quest items, gain 1 at the end of your turn, return it. Ritual of Warding, place a protection token on your space. And Soothing Word, 1 hero on your space replaces a corruption with a new one. And I swear by the moon and the... I don't know if those are the words. Like, we could not, for the life of us, figure out what... Oh, wait. Okay, yeah, when you cast the spell, yeah. So what's super weird is it mentions the protection tokens, but nowhere in the rules does it actually specifically talk about those except the spell location. So the next time a wasteland or foe would spawn on that space, the protection token prevents it. So it acts like kind of like a quarantine token from Pandemic. But yeah, so those are the 6 spells that they get to choose to prep. They're okay. So that's the Reverent Astromancer. Then we have the Undaunted Aegis, or Aegis. This one is actually my favorite out of the 4 because they're the ones that are kind of like a push your luck kind of character. So the Undaunted Aegis, its banner is for each corruption you have, gain 3 warriors, and you may spend 10 warriors to remove 1 of your corruption. Then their virtues: gain 1 spirit for each battle card you spend no advantages on, so that could be 2, 3, up to 4 if you just really want to risk it. And then Iron-Willed, you can have an additional corruption, but you start the game with 1 random corruption. Again, this is one of the characters that I've played recently. I always was like running with 2 corruption, gaining 6 warriors each time, and I never felt like the corruption was ever just a problem. But that one is kind of cool. Like you can have 3. The virtues like that you can unlock for that one is pretty neat, but yeah, that one I thought was pretty interesting. And then last is the Devious Swindler. Banner action, you roll the haggle die and gain the result. Virtues, when you battle, you gain all advantages in the treasure market, which is really cool. And then Joyful, when you roll the haggle die, you ignore the pissed off guy. Like, no, I don't want to haggle. You ignore that. Hence why, with the Devious Swindler, I was saying shuffle the Covenant treasures and the base game treasures into one deck, so you have 4 cards, potentially giving the Devious Swindler 4 advantages. Yeah, the characters are a nice addition. And then we get to the monuments. I don't really care for the monuments. I don't think they're bad. Like, I don't think this expansion is like, it's not trash. Like, it's not like, oh, everything it added sucked. I just didn't really, I don't really want to play with them. So what the monuments do is the game will randomly put 4 monuments out. There are 8 total, and it replaces a building in each region. And that is, to me, already kind of a problem because it reduces the amount of buildings you have in your region. Therefore, skulls kind of become more of a problem because they cannot go on. Like, what you do is you don't place the monuments on the location just yet. They are these templates that you place onto that spot. And each template has kind of an offering condition that when it triggers, in my case, a cube gets placed onto that, and once there are 3 cubes, you can go out and build it. But so each region is now down one building, so that kind of makes Doom Skulls a little bit more of a pain in the ass. But once the monument is built, now it can actually get skulls on it, and it can be destroyed just like any other building. But here's the thing: is the monuments that have these conditions, well, they're not difficult. Again, they're very situational. And here's what I was talking about with these Wasteland Tokens. Like, for example, the Cenotaph of the First Prophet. Its offering is defeat a foe in a wasteland. Well, they don't spawn on wastelands. Every time I've played with this, it's like exceedingly rare that you'll see a foe on a wasteland. So you need the potion that allows you to move a foe 2 spaces. Or you need the character that can move its quarry 2 spaces. So it's like, now I can pull you onto a wasteland and try and fight you. There's ones that are just spend or lose a treasure. There's ones that end your turn on or adjacent to a space with 4+ skulls. And it's not like you as the player, like if I have the Moonstone Temple monument in my region, it's not me that has to do that. Once any player does that, a cube gets placed on that template. So another problem I have with the monuments is it's not scaled per the number of players. So in a 4-player game, the monuments are going to be huge. They're going to be getting done way quicker because you still only need 3 cubes on the spot. So, for example, if everyone's able to get a treasure that allows them to spend, like spended, for example, because there's a lot of it in here that just say, spend when you battle to gain advantage, spend instead of dropping a skull this turn, spend to remove 1 corruption. Let's say you're playing a 4-player game, and 3 of them, like, you happen to be able to get a treasure in a round, and then they just spend it. Okay, well, now that that building or that monument can be built, the 4th player can go there and build it. But in a 1 or like 2-player game, that's 2 people having to try and meet these conditions, which means the monuments are getting built way later, which means their ultimate abilities aren't being done until basically the end of the game. Because once a monument is built, you flip it over, you place the monument on the location, and the monuments look badass. Like, they really stand out. I love the fact that they're like this matted, muted gold kind of thing, and they actually fill like the spot of like a village or a citadel. They do stand out, which is very neat. But then they get an ultimate ability, instead of its like enhanced regular building ability. So the Endless Necropolis, which is this one that I'm holding, you can reinforce there, and for free you can still gain your 6 warriors. But its ultimate is you can spend a spirit to remove any number of skulls from this building and return them to the supply. Because this building can hold any number of skulls, you cannot cleanse this building, so you have to go there. So it's actually kind of it's hollow on the inside because you can just place skulls in it, which I think is actually pretty neat because it looks like this skull like head thing. So you can fill that up with a bunch of skulls, and as long as your bag doesn't run out, you go there, spend a spirit, then dump them all in there. So it effectively completely prevents that region that has it from ever losing a building. From skulls, anyway. But the monuments are clearly better than others. Like, that one's just really good. But then you get, like, the cenotaph. No, sorry, it wasn't the cenotaph. It was, like, the Moonstone Temple is, for 10 spirit, you may battle and cleanse any number of times this turn. Well, that initially sounds good, but unless you have some high-end ways to move or teleport multiple times, it's you just spent 10 spirit to maybe cleanse 2 locations. Again, there's ways that could probably be beneficial. Like, you can really get like an awesome cleanse if everyone spends potions and you have all these treasures that let you move. But other than that, you just spend 10 spirit, and you'd much rather have the 10 spirit to survive a battle, a card, or a quest, or a dungeon. The Nightmare Cage, you can still gain your gear, but for 20 warriors, you can remove a foe. I mean, again, that's 20 warriors. Now, you might have characters that can, like, you might have the treasure that every time you spend a potion, you double it. So you get the Dragon's Tooth potion. Now you spend that to get 12 warriors. You have the Warlord who can just, you basically have the entire bag of five tokens. Then that's really good. But again, that's hyper specific. So I find that the lack of a building at the beginning of the game to be pretty detrimental. And I also find the work you have to go out and do in a lower player count game to not be worth, like, building these, because you're very rarely going to actually use the Monument's ability. The passive ability is now Wasteland Tokens don't get placed in a spot that has a Monument built. Like I said, the Wastelands are just stupid, and they don't matter anyway. So the only other thing that the monuments bring, and this is actually something that we missed the very first time I tried this expansion, and that's in the app. Whenever you do build the monument, you have to put in the app that you built it. And that's because every now and then the monuments will have an event, just like your allies. You know how, like, oh, you have Vasa the Divine, she can, whoever has her gain removes a corruption, things like that. The monuments do that as well, and this actually didn't increase my like for the monuments, because the first time I played this with this, we forgot to put it in the app, and I was like, these things fucking suck. And then I was like, oh yeah, you're supposed to put them in here, and then at the end of that game, we started getting benefits. It's like, oh yeah, that might be good. So, like, but still, those events are much better. Like, some monuments are much better than others. For example, the Nightmare Cage is for 20 warriors, you can remove a foe. Well, no one wants to do that unless you have an influx of unlimited warriors. But its event will randomly remove a foe. Just, it'll be like the Nightmare Cage claims another victim. Remove a what did I just play? Remove a Mormo, and it's like, oh, okay, cool, that's just gone. So you want to get the monuments built, like, quicker, so those events pop off more. But again, if you're playing in a 4-player game, then yeah, you're gonna see those a lot. But then you're gonna, in a lower player count game, you're not gonna see those because the game's almost over anyway, so they might happen every once in a while. So I just, like, I don't think the monuments are bad, I just don't think they're worth it. And because you cannot combine this expansion with the Alliance expansion, you can't module both of them together. Because I don't really like anything that this expansion brought, I'm not gonna play with the monuments. Like, the Alliance expansion I really like, so between the two, I'd much rather play the Alliance expansion. So, I mean, and here's the thing. After I had played Return to Dark Tower, this game came out in 2022, so a year ago, almost 2 years ago. Like, I remember it was super high. Like, I think it got a 10 out of 10 from me. Like, let me just double check that it got a 10 out of 10 from me. Return to Dark Tower. Yeah, got a 10. Well, almost 2 years later, with 2 expansions coming out, I was finding myself in kind of a dilemma where I had severely cool on this game, in that I don't think it's bad by any means. So what I'm about to say, don't be like, oh, it's trash, because that's what people take and they run with it. But I found it to kind of be boring. And the reason why I say that is because in my cooperative games, this is for me personally, I want them to be very difficult. Like, I want to work for a victory. I'd rather honestly lose rather than win, as long as the loss feels fair. And I'd rather win if I earn it. And the very first time I actually played with this expansion, previously I had played Spirit Island, and I hadn't played Spirit Island in quite some time, and I was reminded how fantastic and how much I love that, and how it's still my favorite standalone cooperative game. Not counting like campaign games, because Sleeping Gods is like my favorite game right now. That's cooperative, but I don't count that in like my cooperative. Anyway, but I was reminded at how great that was, and we won that one. And I've won Spirit Island, but I've also lost it quite a fair number of times. But I felt challenged the entire time. And when I was playing this, I have not lost this game in a I think the run through that we did, we lost, and that was like whenever we hadn't. But ever since then, I have never lost, because you get so overpowered so quickly. Like, you get there's literally I wish I knew what the name of it was. I might be able to find it. There is literally a treasure card in here that says when you cleanse, you can remove skulls from any space. That's actually his base game. Sorry. There was one in here. It was you can complete, when you... Nope. I can't find it now. When you cleanse, you may spend this to remove all skulls in your current kingdom, but that's a spend. There's a card in here, anyway, that says you can complete any quest from any location. And it reminded me of how busted the treasure cards can be, because it's like, oh, I don't even have to so again, the Wasteland tokens are useless. I don't even have to travel to that location, and I can just complete it. So I was starting to realize you can just steamroll this game. And I had done a discussion over this expansion previously, and I was like, and I was talking about, okay, well, I've never tried it on gritty difficulty. So I was like, you know what, let me try the expansion again on gritty difficulty, and maybe that'll kind of fix my feelings towards it. And not really. Like, the gritty difficulty just kind of quickened things, and I didn't feel like anything was just all that different, except now things happen faster, but I still won. And I think a big issue with that is because the whole game is centered around you completing a main quest to get the adversary out of the tower. But when you fight the adversary, if you have no corruption and you can get past 3 of its 5 cards, unless, and please tell me if I am wrong about this, but I have double checked the rules many, many times. If you can get past 3 of the cards, you can just take corruption for the last 2 and win. Because if you have no corruption and you cannot complete a battle card, you gain the corruption. Okay, well, nothing says you stop or you just gain the corruption, so you move forward. Then the very last card, you're like, well, I can hold 2 corruption, we only lose if I gain 3. Well, there's the 5th card, my 2nd corruption, and we win. If I am completely wrong about that, please let me know. But I cannot find anywhere that says you have to end your turn, you don't get to continue if you take a corruption, so on and so forth. So I just kind of found this game to be extremely streamlined. Like, I'll play this game anytime that I'm asked to, but I'm definitely not as keen on wanting to set it up, because it's like, well, we're just gonna win. Like, the treasures are too strong. You can get rid of corruption too easy. You can get spirit and warriors too easy. It's just kind of like everything. You just kind of go through the motions, and I was really feeling that, especially with the Covenant expansion, where it's just kind of like, we're kind of rinse and repeat here. Like, we just kind of stop adjacent to four skulls. Place that there. Boom. Okay, now we got the tower built. And another thing that this expansion didn't add, the Alliance expansion I don't think added it either, but I'd really like them to add more adversaries. Like, because it didn't add more allies. I mean, there's still a decent amount of allies. It hasn't added more monsters, more, of the level 2, 3, and 4, and then obviously 5. I would have just liked to see a couple more adversaries added. More quests. It did add more quests, like the one I just did was with Hakan, the Artificer. You had to build 3 of the monuments to then find the location of a dungeon and go through the dungeon, then get the adversary out. And alright, that was obviously focused on the expansion. But yeah, it's just kind of like it was eye-opening to be like, huh. Like, I'm not super keen on, I'm not super like hot on Return to Dark Tower. And this expansion, I just don't really care for really anything it added except the characters. I guess another thing it added was charge tokens. Those very rarely come up because they're treasure specific. There are wands now in the treasure deck that you put charge tokens on them, and you can spend those charge tokens to activate them. Like the Wand of Celerity, you gain 4 charge tokens, spend any number of charge to place your hero that many spaces away. Again, that bypasses the Wastelands because it says place your hero, so not move your hero. And when you battle a melee foe, you can gain a charge. I do like that at least whenever you don't lose the treasure, whenever the charges go away, they have ways for you to get them back. Some of them are like, at the end of the month, gain a charge. Well, like one of them was like, spend number of charges here to remove a foe. So you can run up and remove like a higher level foe, and then end of each month you gain a charge back. Stuff like that. But I would have liked to see more quest items, would have liked to see more potions, more allies, more adversaries. Yeah, I think just overall, I mean, if a new expansion comes out, I'm absolutely getting it. Like, I still like this game, and I know a lot of people are probably just going to completely disagree with me on this expansion, and that's perfectly fine. Like, if you really like which monument should we get first, should we really try and focus to get that one, like that slight puzzle, and if you also like the fact that the game's on the easier side than the brutally hard side. Like, I get that some people just hate fucking This War of Mine or Spirit Island or Robinson Crusoe because they're insanely difficult. I totally get that. Like, this is just for my personal taste. Overall, I think on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to give the Covenant expansion... I think I'm honestly going to give it a 5. Yeah, I think I'm going to give it 5 or a 6 is kind of where I'm at. Originally, I would say 6, but because you can't combine it with the Alliance expansion, I think I'm actually going to drop it by a point. I think I am going to put it at a 5. Because that's the thing, is because I can't combine it with the Alliance. I know I've said this multiple times, but because I can't combine it with the Alliance expansion, I'm not going to play with it. I'm not going to add it to my game. So that just kind of hurts it. If I could, then I'd probably give it 6, maybe a 7, because it could be fun to combine things together and see how they would work. But because you are hard locked from doing so because of the app, you can't even house rule anything to be like, oh, just give it a shot, because the app just won't let you do that. Which, to some people's credit, they might be like, well, that's the problem with app games. In this case, I'd agree with you. Because it's like, that sucks. I can't house rule it. I can't throw in the colored skulls and the doomed skulls and have a completely wacky, wild game. I can't throw in some monuments and the guilds to see how they combine, because the app literally does not let you do that. And that is just such a huge disappointment. So, overall, I mean, this probably, like, after playing with this expansion, and it's like, I mean, I had Return to Dark Tower at a 10. I'd probably put it now at, like, an 8, which is still good. Like, that's still, I mean, if 7 for me is good, this is still great. Like, it's still atmospheric, and the tower is still fantastic. But it's just kind of too easy. So I kind of get bored. Anyway, that is my overall thoughts on the Covenant expansion to Return to Dark Tower. Let me know what you think of it in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.
Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.